welcome to another edition of the Sports War. And we are back. We got the full crew in the house. That is what it's all about. The Yankees, out of any team in the league, are the best equipped to handle a blow like this.
I think there is a higher power at play here. He's due law of averages. That dude is the ultimate scrub. It's trash. Yeah. Every person you have in there is fucking trash.
Next game, you're going to see a big performance. You can see it in the end of the game, and I'm just totally stoked and excited for this.
We are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Port. It's Barnes. It's Renee on the other side of the glass. And it's Monday. We're riled up. The weekend that was, so much to go over. And as we inch closer, as you see behind me, to the start of the Major League Baseball season, so excited for this Yankees season. And of course, you know, the offseason obviously left some to be desired. But at the end of the day, as we saw yesterday in the Yankees, you know, albeit a spring training game, a game where they showed why they're still, you know, despite not adding any big marquee free agents, you know, one of the best teams in the major leagues. And yesterday specifically was one of those days where home runs were flying out, and really all weekend. But it was nice to see Aaron Judge hit 2 home runs, you know, as they try to get together on a contract extension for the slugger. Right now, they might go to arbitration, but obviously what they've said is they're going to try to hammer out a long-term deal. But if not before opening day, then they will revisit it after the season. But of course, me included, you know, all of us Yankee fans here, we're hoping to get this done before the season starts and we can just move on with our lives. And I would imagine, you know, given Judge, I believe he's going to turn 30 this year, what they've floated around that would be fair for both sides, 7 years, $210 million. And really, when it comes to Aaron Judge, I mean, as you know, he's pretty much, I would say, for the vast majority of us Yankee fans, everyone's favorite player. I mean, it's just hard not to like him. He reminds you of a modern day Babe Ruth, in the fact too that he's a Gold Glove fielder, can even run. And then obviously he can hit a ball 500 feet, as we saw in his rookie season where he hit 52 home runs, setting the rookie record at the time, which was eventually broken, I think only 1 year later, by Pete Alonso. But, you know, if you look at the game yesterday, Josh Donaldson led off the game with a home run. He's looked pretty good to start. And I have to say, I really didn't like the move, you know, when they brought him over. But I've always actually liked Josh Donaldson. It was more of just an age thing. But I think we've seen with guys that are heading into their late 30s and, you know, approaching 40, that they can still be productive, you know, the way that these guys train these days. So he's looked pretty good. And I think the biggest part of him coming over is that edge. You know, Aaron Hicks actually talked about teams not fearing the Yankees like they once did, and he wants to really install that fear in them. And I think Donaldson is a big part because he's an intense guy, as we've seen, you know, over the years. And then just looking yesterday, I mean, Marwin Gonzalez, the guy who may, you know, possibly start with the team now that for about the first month of this season, there's going to be 28 guys instead of the usual 26 on the roster. He's a guy, of course, that won that championship with the Astros in 2017, can play every single position other than catcher and pitcher. So he's a guy that might be valuable, especially from a depth perspective as well. So he hit a towering shot to right. And then, you know, also just kind of looking at the box score here, you had another hit from Gleyber Torres. He's got off to a great start this spring and also welcomed a new baby boy, I believe, the other day. So he's a first-time father. He's riled up, and he claims, you know, he feels like the Gleyber Torres from 2018 and 2019, where burst on the seed, you know, after coming over in the Aroldis Chapman deal. If we get anywhere close to that version of Gleyber Torres, I mean, that's going to pay major dividends for the Yankees. And he's even played some shortstop this spring. Not that they're expecting him to be a full-time shortstop, but just if they could be comfortable with him playing short, you know, and being able to move guys around, I think that just speaks to the versatility of the team, and it really gives them so many other options. So you really, you know, hope to see that. And then really, other than that from yesterday, Garrett Cole did make his first start and he technically, got rocked 2 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned, only 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. But good to just get him through it healthy. Monty came out of the pen, actually made his debut as well. 2 2/3, 5 strikeouts. Did get a comebacker up the middle, but he was fine. And then we saw scoreless innings out of Loaizaga and Abreu. So, overall, the spring training is not about the record. The Yankees are 3-6 to start off, but it's just about getting guys reps. And I think for the most part, everybody who's played for them up to this point has looked, pretty good. Higashioka had a 2 home run game, I believe, on Saturday over the weekend. So, anything you can get from this catching position now that you've traded away Gary Sanchez is going to be a plus. So, obviously, it's nice that they were able to get that, and we'll see if Verdette's ready to go. If not, Rob Brantley actually hit a home run over the weekend, so you'd imagine he would fill in. Obviously, there is always the option of acquiring a veteran catcher, but to me, it seems like they're kind of leaning in the direction of just going with what they have and seeing what they can do with that. And then, of course, if you need to, you can acquire someone, via trade. Maybe, me and Tony last week talked about Wilson Contreras. Maybe that price is a little too rich, and that's why they haven't made a move there. But I guess, time will tell. So this Thursday marks 1 week till we have the start of the Major League Baseball season. I could not be more excited. So, of course, any big news and updates that come to us between now and then, we'll definitely keep you posted. But, of course, this time of year, we've had a lot of buzz, NFL free agency, that's kind of dominated. But now, as we know, as next week, believe it or not, is the Final Four. This is March. This is March Madness. So, of course, coming into this weekend, the big storyline was St. Peter's. And while they were able to win their game Friday against Purdue, they didn't have the same luck yesterday as they do fall to UNC to miss that trip to the Final Four. But obviously, really a storybook run as far as St. Peter's is concerned. And already their coach has taken the job at Seton Hall, like widely expected, and something that we talked about last week. But nevertheless, it really was just a great story to see, a school like that from the MAC. I believe no school from the MAC had even reached the Sweet 16, until this season. So to get all the way to the Elite Eight, you really got to give it to them. And you hope that for their sake, moving forward, this is a building block for the program. Usually these deep runs are, Florida Gulf Coast, a few years back after they were able to, advance to the Sweet 16. They had a big interest in just people coming to the school in general, just wanting to see the program. Their coach, I believe he's still at Southern Cal, ended up getting that gig from their run. So you never know what'll happen. But just kind of going over all the games since we last met on Friday. Obviously, for my sake, and I know Tony's excited that they didn't complete the Cinderella run in a sense. Providence does fall to Kansas on Friday, 66-61, trailed by 9 going into halftime. And we're actually leading with a couple minutes to go, but just couldn't quite finish the deal. But listen, you got to give it to Providence, small Catholic school here in Rhode Island. And Ed Cooley, the Providence native, he's always speaked about how this has always been his dream job. Obviously, before coaching at Fairfield University, he's done a great job. So they finished this year 27-6, get the Sweet 16 appearance. Really going into the year, you'll take that any day of the week. And while they are going to lose some upperclassmen, there is a lot to build from here. And I think this can only help recruiting. Was an exciting game between St. Peter's and Purdue. Ivy, the point guard, who's probably going to go top 3, if not number 1 overall, rims out on a 3-pointer to try to send that overtime. So that's how St. Peter's advanced. We saw North Carolina defeat UCLA, and this was back and forth. UCLA led by 3 at half, but then late just really faltered, hucking up too many threes. And love for UNC was on fire between his 3-point shots, just really getting anything he wanted at will, driving to the basket. So that was a great game played by North Carolina. And then Miami, did defeat Iowa State 70-56. Not as close of a game. I mean, I guess if you want to say at halftime, they were only up by 3, but then really took control of the game into the second half. And then we're on to Saturday. And you take a look at the results, that we had on Saturday. Villanova really controlled the game most of the way against Houston, leading by 7.5. And there was a little scare. I believe it was tied or they were up 1 at one point, but near the end of the game, they kind of really took over. And Gillespie didn't have one of his signature games, but had some big plays late. Samuels had a nice game, 16 points, 10 rebounds as Villanova advances to the Final Four yet again. And then, of course, the storyline of this tournament, the swan song for Coach K. They defeat Arkansas 78-69 and advance to, I believe, his 13th Final Four since he's been coached at Duke. And I believe that actually broke a tie with the great John Wooden. So obviously that's a really big storyline. Duke getting to another Final Four and really trying to win that one more championship for Coach K on his way out. And obviously he deserves it. The body of work he's coming the first coach, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago at this point. But to get to 1,000 wins and just all the stuff that he's done, building that program there in Durham, so you got to give it to him. And then you look at the other half of the Elite Eight from Sunday. Kansas just blows out Miami 76-50, and they were actually down by 6 at halftime. But Miami, I mean, it just the wheels just came off. They just missed 3-pointer after 3-pointer. And just one of their big men fouled out early, so that really hurt them. Abaji for Kansas, he had a nice game, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. As Kansas moves on to the Final Four under Bill Self. At this point, he's been there about 20 years. Always in contention for a championship. You got to give it to him. He's obviously one of the better coaches in America. And then the Cinderella song ends for St. Peter's as they fall 69-49 to North Carolina. Really wasn't close from the beginning. It's just one of those things. I mean, we didn't even expect them to win their first round game. I mean, obviously they were playing Kentucky. So to get all this way to Elite Eight, I think they were just a little burned out. A lot of pressure on them. Win one game, can they win one more? Can they win one more? You kind of say that to yourself. I think it was kind of almost an unrealistic expectation for them to get to the Final Four. Albeit, a great run in this tournament. And UNC, I mean, you got to give it to Hubert Davis. His job kind of question of how well he has been doing this season, replacing legends like Roy Williams, who was at these games actually over the weekend. Kind of really struggled in the middle part of the season, but coming on strong late, obviously beat Duke in that season finale, and then in this game, I mean, you blow out St. Peter's, you get to a Final Four, and you actually set up the first meeting between Duke and North Carolina in a Final Four in history. So, I mean, what's better than that? This should be a fun game to do and to watch this game and just enjoy. For UNC, North Carolina 20 controls points, the tip underway in Philadelphia. All over domination. Getting the shot there comfortable with that trip. As an 8th seed, they advance to the Final Four. Real high pick and roll from Carolina. Just taking a look at what matchups move to the rim. Semifinals on Saturday. And this is actually in New Orleans. This is the Superdome, also known as the home of the New Orleans Saints. First game is going to tip off at 6:09. Battle of the Blue Bloods. Shaheen Holloway takes an early timeout as we have number 2 Villanova versus 1 Kansas. So that should be a great game. For Black. Spin on Eder, and the finish off the window. Easy take here, this team but for me, I look at this game games. They don't seem rattled right now. They're just not making shots. Other than 2008, Hassan Drame drops it in from the outside. In Memphis at the time. This is Carolina closing up the middle of the floor very nicely. These spots they just have not succeeded in. I mean, they're a great regular season team, and they win their early games generally in the tournament, but they have not gotten over this hump in a while. And I just feel like Villanova, with all their experience, and Jay Wright, I mean, it's hard to argue that, especially with Coach K. It's tiring now that he's not the best coach in America. It just seems like he always has his guys ready to play. Gillespie, whether it's Samuels. I mean, they're just so well coached, and everybody really does the little things right. I just have to, despite them being actually 4.5-point underdogs, but we did see, they were underdogs against Houston, so I guess for whatever reason, the bookmakers are quite holding value for them at this point. So they're underdogs here, but I like
coming
them
off a 30-point performance in the win over UCLA.
I think either way, it
found the angle that he wanted.
I hope from the games yesterday, especially, that we don't have some blowouts.
But they're getting the shots.
I just wouldn't expect them.
But I'm also sensing that the speed of North Carolina is bothering them a lot.
Puff Johnson drains it.
They faced Ohio State.
Who's going to step forward for St. Peter?
The guards have to get to the middle of the floor.
Obviously, though, they did Delaware. But you expect that.
Tremendous defender, all ACC defensive team.
And you look at Kansas here, 32-6 on the season.
Shot clock at 7.
Baji, he's really been the best player.
Understanding the switch.
For them to win, they're going to need to step up. And of
27 in the upset over Kentucky overtime first round. He's been held scoreless so
right
far.
Now, the
Defo has no fear.
ESPN's
team defense as we've seen on display in this first
Villanova
half.
actually
the double teams down low.
Winning this game,
Love.
so
Got it. A 3.
Spread there.
Let him get warmed up.
Just very early.
That's an indicator that it's going to be a matchup
on Friday's show.
And this was
we'll do like an
against
official
Purdue.
kick segment here,
Holloway
but I
switched
think
to it.
this is going to be probably a one-possession game.
Every time. Book it from long range for Caleb Love.
I think both teams play pretty good
single
defense.
digits by the time the half
so
rolls around. That
at
would
this
be a
point,
win
and my opinion may change, but
Davis,
give me Villanova
cross,
here.
Lean,
58
bucket,
to 56.
and the foul.
And it could be
Jim, this has been a chore on the
Gillespie
offensive
at the buzzer
it's a tip
for
and a
the
half
win.
to
I mean,
North
what a game
Carolina
that
for
would
their
be
defense.
if we do get that. And
what a
then
play.
if we were to start
Gets
our
inside.
Saturday
St.
with a
Peter's
game
was
like
hoping to
that,
cut this to
going
10 or
down
under.
the wire,
UNC
what a
might
better
get it
way
to
to finish
20.
it off.
Love, an
Another
air ball,
classic,
caught
and
by
like I
Baycott.
mentioned,
Takes it
first
strong,
meeting
can't put it down.
between UNC
Another
and
board,
Duke
Moses Malone
in the
style.
NCAA tournament.
And
This
he
one
gets it off the window.
scheduled to
He's
tip
having
off
his
at
way on the glass.
8:49
St. Peter's
on
has collectively.
TBS.
And only two
You look
St.
at this,
Peter's players
it's
have
just so
field
hard to
goals
look at
in
this
game
game
so far.
and for a variety of
Pull up.
reasons. But really, the number one being that you just feel like Duke, Coach K, body of work he's put in.
We are underway with a
it's
tap.
just like destiny that they're
Sure,
going to
they
the
find
championship here.
Tony.
They're gonna
Nice
advance
pass
past
by
North
Williams.
Carolina.
Don't
and
get
they're
too
gonna
deep on
avenge,
penetration.
That last loss of the regular season
Nice
at Cameron Indoor,
underneath.
which
And it
was
goes.
spoiled, of course,
Dribble
Coach
drive.
K's last
Get the
game there.
attention.
They really want revenge in this spot.
Rude.
I mean, you look at Duke. I
Lost
mean,
it on the way.
they're
Now
just like
Williams
Kansas,
challenged Williams, who
32-6
just
on the
picked up a
season.
foul.
They've been,
Follow-up,
the
though,
better
by
team
Mark
this season.
Williams.
They're
How
obviously
about
led by
Mark Williams, the
Boncharo,
big fella, getting
but they
down
really
the
have
court.
contributions up and down the roster. I mean, just like any Duke team. I mean, it's never just
Got
one
Wade.
guy. That speaks to how well
What a
they recruit.
fantastic finish.
So this is,
There's that ball
really
screen.
a tough
Mark
one
Williams
to
again.
really pick. But I just think
Tony coming in on
somehow,
him. He
some
waits
way,
long enough. Did you
Duke
let this kid
finds a way to
Euro?
win. And sending
Letterman
Coach
pinning
K
Denard, one of those celebrating.
to a
Right now,
national
Arkansas needs a
championship
good
game
shot.
once again.
No save. For him, that's a
This
good
being
shot. That's what they
setting
I know
up
it's not a
like
good
a
shot.
Peyton
Look at how they
Manning type of
split the
situation,
basket
a
too.
John
Upside
Elway
deep.
situation,
And narrow
just
jumper.
riding off into the sunset.
And
It really seems like we're
drops
set
for
up to
more.
see that. And
Active hands. They got
if we get Villanova versus Duke, like I'm expecting, I mean, what a national championship
Weaving
game will be.
traffic.
We've seen
Nice
Villanova,
move. And they had to stay on to something. Carroll said that.
possession
John
games, and actually it was against North
Carolina
Carolina a few years ago, where Chris Jenkins
trying to defend.
the game winner.
Move
Could we
underneath.
see
He's
something
got to
like
get
that?
going. Jalen
On the
Williams,
Duke side of
obviously
things,
so
I
much
mean, time
attention
will
on
tell.
Note.
But
Likes you can do
what a
some
tournament it's
penetrating,
been. I
make
mean,
some shots
I guess you
that
could
find
say
people. No
St.
look
Peter's,
pass.
of
Tony
course,
blocks.
story of the tournament here, but of course Coach K as well.
Squeezes
But
it
just
home.
tons of upsets
Double,
and
double
3 number
machine.
ones going down before
Another
the
player
Elite Eight.
competed
It's
against
something you don't usually see, but
Duke and
you
his
do get that
former life
one
inside the
game,
ACC. Nice tension. Look at
Kansas.
Rhodes. Oh, he took advantage of
So,
life.
really just been a
Think
great
he's going for
tournament.
the screen,
Can't
little
wait for the
blow-by
games on
patiently.
Saturday, and then we'll have a day off.
Nice give.
National
Great pass.
championship
Yeah.
on Monday.
Drive into the basket for
And
two
then,
more.
how-
Jalen Williams.
Next week, I mean, what a week. I
Fails
mean,
the
you
ball.
get national championship
Williams.
on a Monday,
Great fake.
opening
Great
day
shot
for
fake.
baseball.
Dishes.
on
Tony.
Thursday.
Blocked by
What
Griffin on the
more
way
could you ask
up.
for?
What a save.
This truly
They
is
get a little cushion as
the
Williams
best
really
time of the
backs
year.
off
There's just
in that
no
lane.
doubt about it.
Over the legs.
So
Wow, how about
we'll
that?
see what
He
happens.
knows.
Any type
Size
of developments
difference.
we get here.
That one right
in terms
there,
of
that
March
2-point
Madness
shot by
between
Griffin.
now and
That's
Saturday.
6.
We'll keep you posted. And like I said,
now-
do a full preview come Friday. But for now, it's time to go to the world of the National Hockey League.
In they come. Heavens, what a save by Vasilevsky! Are you kidding me? McAvoy, Frederick, did you get the license plate number on that truck? McDavid, beautiful move. You just knew that Connor McDavid was going to make a statement. What a goal.
All right. So it was definitely an interesting weekend in the National Hockey League. And like always, we have to talk Rangers here. So they had a game on Friday, a game yesterday. You look at the one on Friday, I mean, they just come out firing on all cylinders. 3 goals in the first period, including a total of 5 for the game, as they get avenged for that 1-0 loss to the Penguins about a month ago. That was that national game on ABC with a 5-1 victory here. And you just take a look at the numbers. I mean, Shesterkin, another flawless game in net. I mean, 20 of 21 with the saves. And then as far as the offense, you had Lafreniere with his 14th. You had Kreider with his 43rd. I can't believe that Chris Kreider has 43 goals here. And just looking at this, I mean, there's 65 games, so there's still 17 games left in this season. I mean, could he have 60 goals by the time the season is over? I mean, he was a guy that was very good, but nothing like to this level where, it's hard to argue. How is he not at least just slightly in the MVP conversation? I mean, to think, of course, the Rangers have a very deep team, but he's just been that guy at the center of it all season long. So really got to give it to Chris Kreider, a guy, of course, drafted by the Rangers and been with them his whole career. I think he played at Boston College. Tony tunes in here and says, "Let's go Rangers." Yes, he can, Barnes. And he could not be more correct. And you look to just at the other guys scoring in this game. Vetrano, coming over from Florida. He's had an impact early. That was his 12th goal. And then Kreider, yet again, a shorthanded goal in the second period to make it 4-0. So 44 goals for Chris Kreider. And then another new addition, Kopp, in the third period with his 14th goal. So this was a very important win for the Rangers. So nice one to get on Friday night. And then we did have, it's funny, you would have thought like the results in terms of games being close would have been opposite here, in terms of that the Penguins game would be close. And then the game yesterday at 5:00, start, which a little bit of an odd start time against the Sabres, would be like a 5-1 game. But of course, that was not the case, as the Rangers, they started out leading 2-1 after 1. Then it was 3-3 after 2. And then, of course, they're up 4-3 late against the Sabres, and the Sabres add one late to make it 4-4. And then we get overtime. So you're just crazy to think. But sometimes these games, especially technically, a New York versus New York, obviously there's a little more kind of push, especially from the Sabres side of things, to take out the Rangers. And Tony says, love those trade deadline acquisitions. And it's hard to argue. They've all made impacts. So really great moves by the Rangers. And it was funny because me and Tony all season long, talked, what moves are they going to make? What moves are they going to make? And all of them have worked out. And obviously, I think Vetrano seems like it's the biggest. And he says a win is a win, which he's correct, as the Rangers now are 42-19-5. And just taking a look at this game, and it was funny, a game like this too, a Gorgie game. So he's won his last 2 starts. Save percentage-wise, we left a little to be desired. 4 goals allowed against 17. So that's only a 7.65 save percentage. But, I think that's a credit to the defense of the Rangers. They didn't let many shot attempts get through. And you look at the goal scorers here. Vetrano, again, his 13th goal and his 14th goal, both scored in the first period. You look at the second period, Lafreniere, 15 goals, which kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. I want Chris Kreider to slap someone at the ESPYs. I can't with that story. And it's funny. I'm sure me and Tony will talk about it at some point, but I know him and Michael, who are tuning in right now, they know what I think about a story like that. It does not even deserve to be bringed up. But of course, I was just reading the comments there. But back to the game, Panarin, 17th goal in the third period, and then the game winner, Keandre Miller, his 6th goal in overtime. Just what an exciting game. And Sam Rosen, another legendary call. I mean, of course, he just keeps pumping those out. But really, I mean, hard to argue that he's not the best voice in the National Hockey League. I mean, just a complete living legend. And I think me and Tony went over this before. I want to say he's like 30 years on the job, but he shows up to work every day like it's his first game. Like he brings that much excitement, and you got to love a guy like that. So great weekend for the Rangers. They'll be in action tomorrow in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. So another game against Pittsburgh. It would be something too if they were able to win that one as well. Just in terms of the playoff standings, that's where you need to be. Carr's cool. I have not heard from Carr's cool in about 6 months. He says downtime. What's up, man? It's been a while. Glad you're tuning in. But just taking a look here at the playoff standings, like I said, we've got about 17 games left for most of the teams in the league. So the Rangers currently sit at 4th, 1 point behind Pittsburgh, but also 1 point ahead of Tampa Bay, 2 points ahead of both Toronto and Boston. So this is a tight playoff race. All these games are important. So right now, of course, they find themselves in a good position, but you get that win against Pittsburgh tomorrow, then you'll be back in 3rd. And like I was saying last week, I mean, they have an outside shot. I mean, now it's 4 points behind Carolina, but that is not even out of the question. So you'd love to see them get that 3 seed and possibly have a first-round game against Toronto, against Boston, even potentially Washington, depending how the standings shake up. So that would be a big win. So hopefully we see it. But for now, I mean, that's what we have as far as the New York Rangers are concerned. And as far as the pick segment between me and Tony, he's just at this point, I mean, there's no other way to say it. He's pulling away. So over the weekend, he adds another 2 games. So you take a look at it. So going into yesterday, he was 5-4, sweeps the game. So that's 9 wins over the weekend for Tony. So that moves his record to of course, when I go to type it in here, 44, and then let's see. So we had 9 and then 4. So 44-34. I mean, unbelievable. 10 games over 500. And then you take a look at me, 5-4 going into yesterday, but then I go 2-2. So that would be 7-6. So that would be 40-37. So really lagging here behind Tony, but what can you do? You mean, you just give it your best. That's all you can do. So 4-game separation here. Got till Thursday. We'll still, like they like to say, play out the string. So hopefully I can rebound here, but the tickets are already secured. So, hey, Tony wins this. I mean, it's a job well done by Tony. He really has killed this pick segment, and I've tried my best, and it's been close most of the time, but he's just seemed to pull away here. So one more time, he's 44-34, and I am 40-38. So that's where we stand, and we did have picks that were made for tonight's game. So I'll go over those now, and hopefully, we did 2 individual games, 1 common game, and we did actually go head-to-head in terms of 1 game, but I'll get to that in a second. And as Tony chimes in here, you've done better than I thought. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Tony. You deserve all the praise yourself. What can I say? At the end of the day, you've had the better game in terms of these pick selections, but still gonna fight till the end here. So taking a look at tonight, and Tony, if there's any errors with these picks, just let me know. I didn't write anything down, but I think I remember who you had. And just before we get to that, Car School says, what do you think about Chris Rock and Will Smith? And last time I'm commenting on this, it's not real, and I don't want to hear anybody say anything. I don't care, but I just know it's one of those things. Oh, let's get everybody talking about Twitter on it. We're all washed up comedians that nobody cares about anymore. Best work was done 20 years ago. So we need to make some big splash. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just too smart for those type of things. And that's why it's all about sports. Cars Cool says okay. So I think he's kind of tight that I have that opinion, but this is a sports show, not an entertainment show. And Renee knows it over there. She knows it too well. So on to picks for tonight. I'm going to document these while I go over them. So the first pick we had here, Tony does go with the Carolina Hurricanes on the road against the Washington Capitals. And I haven't looked up starting goalies or anything, but hard to really argue him with this one. The Capitals, big spots this year, even small spots, just not really showing up. And, it's weird to say that because they're 37-20. I mean, that's 17 games over 500. But the point is, we've seen them just not show up. And the Hurricanes, 43-15-7. And Aho, I finally have got the name right because I always say Ahu, and Tony always corrects me. Has had a great year for Carolina, 28 goals, 36 assists, 64 points on this season. And you look at the top guy for Washington, who else would it be? Alexander Ovechkin, 42 goals, 36 assists, 78 points. So Carolina minus 130. So Tony goes with Carolina here. And for me, taking a look at the next game here, I am going to go with the St. Louis Blues, and they're another team. I mean, 35-20. So 15 games over 500, but they have not showed up in spots. The Canucks have had a pretty good year, up and down, nevertheless, but 32-26. So, one more than they've lost. And we know all about JT Miller and how they drove up the price pre-deadline. So the Rangers weren't able to bring him back, but obviously that's worked out to their advantages. They brought in more guys who have made impact all across the board. But for St. Louis here, I'm feeling that they're going to get a win. I mean, they're at home, a place that, they've played well this season. You look at the record, it's 29-4. But you look at them of recent, actually losers of 4 out of 5, which kind of plays to my mindset here where, as Tony said, with Sam Darnold, and we didn't see it last year, maybe we'll see it this year, law of averages, they're too good to be down for too long. So I'm going to say tonight against Vancouver, close game, 3-2, and I think Courreau has all 3 goals, also known as the hat trick, including the game winner in overtime. Let's say 45 seconds left before we would get to a shootout. Courreau wins it for the Blues as they pick up an important victory here against the Vancouver Canucks. And then my other pick here, another solo pick, like I mentioned, we do have one common game. I am going to go with the Chicago Blackhawks, who catch the Buffalo Sabres on a back-to-back. And listen, Chicago, it's not had a great year. They traded away Marc-Andre Fleury, which doesn't help, but they still have Patrick Kane, a guy that I called out earlier this year. And, I have to give it to him. I mean, he's had a pretty good year in terms of assists, 57. That's amongst the leaders in the National Hockey League to go along with 21 goals. So he's been big for them. And whether, it's Lankinen or Soderblom, I'm sure Tony will correct me on that one in a second. I think they step up. You look at it, they've lost 3 out of 5. The Sabres have lost their last 2 games after winning the previous 3. But I just think, you're going in a back-to-back. You're going against the Chicago team with Taves, too, who just, I believe, either he has made his 1,000th appearance as a Blackhawk or is approaching that. And there's a lot of talk about doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. So you'd expect, possibly in the offseason, him to be moved to a contender. I mean, we'll see what happens. But in terms of this game, I think this is going to be another close game, but I'm going to say the Blackhawks get this one done. Sabres a little worn out from last night. Give me Blackhawks 4, Sabres 3, Patty Kane with the old 2 goals, 1 assist, as I pencil in the Blackhawks for my pick selection number 2. And the other game that Tony has, and I'll just pull this up in a second. Let's see. So the other pick that he has, he goes with the Oilers here against the Coyotes. And, he mentioned this before when I was with him, that it's a tricky spot. I mean, Edmonton minus 420. He's right. It's a tricky spot. Personally, love Edmonton. They've really improved after, a really tough stretch in the middle of the season. Obviously, big part of that, bringing in Evander Kane. Obviously, the return of Mike Smith has helped them as well. The Coyotes, though, they just step up. And, I know they lost last night in overtime to Winnipeg. But I just think this kind of smells like a Utah Jazz overlooked spot. I really do. Tony has the Oilers winning, so we'll give him the Oilers. And you know what? I hope they do win, just because I want to see them definitely be in the playoffs. I want to see that offensive trio of McDavid, of Draisaitl, of Kane going up against the league's best. And I just think having those three guys on your roster alone, well, it's not likely, definitely puts you in the conversation to pull a first-round upset. So hopefully we get that. Like I said, of course, we'll see what happens in the exciting one game head-to-head. I am probably going to be shooting myself in the foot over this one, but I did say, it's a game. The Kings are hosting the Seattle Kraken. And I think it's just a matter of, I've picked so many favorites this year. You got to go with underdogs, and sometimes it's not easy. It's not pretty. So I'm going to just say somehow, maybe it's Gaudreau, as Tony likes to say, for Seattle. Maybe he has a nice game. And, I know Kopitar and Quick, as Tony says, no Utah Jazz, both Canes with 2 goals, 1 assist tonight. I could definitely see that. I would lean, though, I'm going to say Evander more likely to do that. Kane's more of the 2 assists, 1 goal guy, as we've seen this season. But this Kraken Kings game, I think it's going to be close. I'm going to say somehow, some way, Seattle will win this one 3-2, getting their 10th road victory of the season. I'm going to say McCann has 2 goals and Gaudreau has the other, as Seattle with Grubauer, who's only got an 8.89 save percentage this season, having 35 saves, as the Kings get upset at home. And you look at this, they lost a home game to Chicago last week, as well as a road game to Vegas. They did defeat Nashville and San Jose, but they're just a team, 36-22. Another one of those teams where it's like the record looks good, but they just have not been consistent. So I'm going to just pencil these picks in. So I'm going to go this is Tony. So Kings, and then I will go with the Kraken, and hopefully I'll go 3-0. Tony will go 0-3, and then I'll be in shouting distance once again. Obviously, I know that's a very optimistic take, but we'll see what happens. Looking forward to watching these games tonight as we get down the stretch run in the National Hockey League. Really just an exciting time. And, we got to just go somewhere where we haven't been in a while, just to kind of update everyone. Let's go to the world of the National Basketball Association.
The Bulls LeBron James at the buzzer. He banks in the three, and the Lakers win the game.
All right, so you would have thought yesterday, I think the Lakers were up 20 points. They would have won the game, but like we've seen many times this season, the Lakers do not win the game as they fall 116-108 to the Pelicans last night. LeBron, great game, but twists that ankle late. I haven't seen an update yet today, but it doesn't look good. It's just one of those things. Do they just sit him down for the rest of the season and go on to next? Wouldn't possibly be the worst idea in the world. So LeBron last night, 39 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, including 7-13 from 3-point range, looking like Kyle Korver from 3. Westbrook, 18.7 rebounds, 6 assists, but minus 18 out there. So obviously that doesn't get the job done. As Tony says, humbled LeBron Barnaby. Michael says Thaddeus Young dude, LOL. And then also 23 points. I guess 23-point lead is what he was referring to. And it's funny, actually. I know it's crazy because, like, how could I forget it? But I thought, Michael, when you said Thaddeus Young, you were talking about like how he did last night. But I know that was, oh yeah, I've heard his name before. So I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, really, just this is the way the season has gone for the Lakers. There's just no other way to say it. It's just been disappointment after disappointment. And you look at the roster, I mean, it's hard to think that other than LeBron's spot, other than Anthony Davis's spot, I think everyone else's spot is up in the air. And Michael says LeBron going to Cleveland. I just think not quite yet. I think they're going to go one more run with this group. And, you know, of course, you know, LeBron kind of dictates everything, but he's under contract. And I just don't think the reason why I think for him to go to Cleveland, it has to be via free agency. Because I just don't think that the Cavs want to give up young assets to acquire LeBron for him to play there for 2 years. As much as LeBron has been obviously their most important player in franchise history, I just don't think they're going to give up future assets to acquire him. So I say he plays it out one more year. Now, will he get a chance in a play-in game against the New Orleans Pelicans? So right now they are a half game behind them for that 9th spot. So they sit in 10th. San Antonio Spurs, 1 game behind them. And then 4 games behind them is the Portland Trail Blazers. Watch out for the Spurs team. Listen, overall, absolutely trash. But as Michael knows, DeJounte Murray, complete animal. And he's the reason why, and I didn't even get to tell Michael or Tony this. I did win my semifinal fantasy basketball matchup, led by, of course, DeJounte Murray, LaMelo Ball, Devin Booker. I mean, those guys have played big dividends. So championship week this week, aiming for my first fantasy basketball title. Obviously, I'll keep you guys all posted, but exciting stuff, of course. But I think the Lakers could be in trouble here. I kind of feel like they're going to shut LeBron down. And Anthony says woo, as well as Michael saying bye-bye LA, AD going to Chicago. A lot of talk about that. Obviously, I would expect AD to go to Chicago if LeBron left. Time will tell. Anthony with a little sarcastic, you know, I can see him cracking up over there at the Candlewood Cafe. Fantasy basketball, so fun. And the thing is, it is fun because I just, fantasy is just fun in general, honestly. But I will say, I will, maybe even if I just have to do a pro league, because I don't know if any of my friends really want to do a fantasy hockey league, but I would definitely be down to do that next year. So, Tony, maybe you can rile up some of the boys to get one of those together, but we'll see. So while it looks like, you know, whether it's just a one and done in the play-in game or a, you know, first round sweep or not even getting there in terms of the Lakers, I still going to be interested in this basketball postseason. You know, you look at the Western Conference. I mean, Phoenix has dominated all season. Chris Paul's back. They've won 8 and 9. They've already clinched the number 1 overall seed, 9 games ahead of Memphis. I mean, talk about crushing your competition. You know, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. They've really just had such a strong season. So hats off to them. And I think they're going to play hard the rest of these games. I mean, you look at it, 75 games. They got 7 games left. You know, you look at Memphis there in second. I mean, they've had a great run with Ja, of course. Golden State, you know, injuries have hurt them a little bit, but still 48 and 27, having a great year. And then you round out the top 8 with Dallas, Utah, Denver, Minnesota, returning to the playoffs for first time in a few years. And then the Clippers at 8. And then Michael says, how crazy it that the Celtics are first. And I have to say, I could not agree more, you know, especially we all chuckled at the move Brad Stevens moving from coach to front office, bringing in a first-time coach. And I'm not even going to, attempt to pronounce his name. If Tony knew who he was or he had heard his name before, he'd correct me on it. So I think it's Ike Diago. I could be wrong. I could be thinking of somebody else. But anyway, he's done a good job. And obviously, though, the reason why they are where they are, I mean, you have to look at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown finally figuring out how to play with one another. Peyton Pritchard's had some big games of recent, not overall this season, but just of recent. And you take a dive into the numbers here. So technically they are tied, but I guess they have the tiebreaker over Miami, who, I don't know what is going on with Udonis Haslem, who hasn't played a game in like 5 years, but somehow he's still on the active roster, getting in fights with Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra. But you look at the Miami Heat organization with Pat Riley, always been stable. So it seems like they're able to sweep those kind of things under the rug. And you look at the numbers here. So Tatum, 27 points per game, Brown at 23.4. And then Derek White has, averaged 10 points a game since coming over from San Antonio. Marcus Smart, he's been an asset offensively and defensively, and really for many years now. And then Al Horford, coming back to Boston this year, 10 points a game to go along with Robert Williams. So kind of contributors up and down the lineup. And of course, you look at Peyton Pritchard, you hate to see 5.9 points per game. I expected more of a step forward this year as he is 24, albeit, it's only his second season in the league. But you look at his last 10 games, 9.9 points per game and shooting 56.5% from three-point range. So he's turning it on when they need him. And I could see, tell me, Michael, you don't see Mike Breen, first-round series for the Celtics, Pritchard for three, bang! And it's going to, like 7-8 times. It's going to happen. As he asks, who's winning the East, who's winning the West? So I think without question, unequivocally, I have to say the Phoenix Suns are winning the West. They are too good. Is this the year Chris Paul kind of gets the monkey off his back? He's already a Hall of Famer. They've called him the point god for years. I don't know. We'll worry about that when the time comes. But as far as making the NBA Finals, I say Monty Williams and the Suns and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker go back-to-back champs of the West. They're on to the NBA Finals in my eyes. Looking at the East, and I know Michael's going to get a kick out of this one. I think until they lose, it's hard to pick against the champs. Give me the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they have not been talked about enough this year, and right now they're only a half game out of first, so they could still get that top seed. And they've been the best team in the East regular season wise for the past 3 years, and it's just Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's it. That's all you need to have. It seems like the rest just falls into place. And he's just the guy that, you want to have to be the face of your franchise. He's not ego driven, like a Kevin Durant, like a Kyrie Irving. He just lets his play speak for himself. And he really is himself. And you could see that in the press conferences after the game. So Giannis really, I would honestly say other than LeBron, I would say he's probably my second favorite player in the league. And the numbers, are always insane. 29.7 points per game, 11.6 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 1 steal, 1.4 blocks. So he's had a great year. And then, the guys, I guess you could say, his Batman, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, strong seasons once again. Middleton, 20 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 5.4 assists. Drew Holiday, 18.6 points per game, 6.7 assists. So, the core of this group, obviously, Brook Lopez, big part of the title run last year, has barely played this year. He just came back, so I think that's big for them. DeMarcus Cousins has, been getting fights with people, or he was actually. I forgot that he actually left to go to Denver, but he says you love Kyrie and KD. More of an issue with Kyrie. KD, is nasty, but he's so soft when it comes to media criticism. I mean, it's so annoying too because he is so much fun to watch. I mean, a 7-footer that could shoot with anybody in the NBA. Obviously, what he does on the defensive side, and even coming off a torn Achilles, he hasn't lost a step. So exciting guy, but the ego just gets me the way he carries himself. I miss KD when he was in Oklahoma City. That was the KD that I liked. So I hope we get a rematch of last year's finals. Suns, the Bucks. I think that would make for exciting games, exciting NBA finals, and I think we could see a 7-game series this time around. And I don't think that the Bucks will fall down 2-0 like they did this past season. I could see it really going every other, and then Game 7, anybody's game. But let's just say, Michael, I know you're going to love this one. I could see a back-to-back situation. So keep an eye out for that. And, we haven't kind of picked the nightly games in a while. So I'll just kind of run them down quick. He says the East is going to be crazy. I do agree. I think we'll see some good games for sure. Looking ahead to tonight, though. So 7 o'clock, Magic, Cavs. Cavs have really been struggling after having one of the better records in the National Basketball Association. 9-point favorites here at home against the Magic. We all know about Mo Bamba, who's paying dividends for my fantasy basketball team. But he's not paying dividends in this game. Cavs are tight. They're pissed. They know that they're better than their record has been over the past 20 games or so. Give me Cleveland here, 120, Magic 108. I'm going to say, for some reason, Kevin Love, 10 3-pointers today. I don't know why I'm feeling that, but I think 10 3-pointers, 40 points, obviously a season high as the Cavaliers roll. Hornets coming off a big win against the Nets last night, facing the Nuggets here, and the Nuggets 4-point road favorites. We know about Jokic. We know just about the Nuggets in general. I mean, they've been one of the better teams in the league consistency-wise over the past few years. But I think that in this game, the Hornets are wiped from last night. So give me the Nuggets. I think Jokic 40-20 in a 120-105 victory over the Hornets. Pacers, Hawks. I mean, weird season for the Hawks. Really expected them to be better right now. They're actually all knotted up at 37. Pacers, obviously, the Sabonis trade. Halliburton's looked nice, but they just don't win. So give me the Hawks 135, Pacers 89. One of those games they don't show up. Kings versus Heat here. I think Miami. I don't like what's going on in that locker room. I don't know Jimmy Butler. Like, I know Michael's always big on Jimmy Butler. But I don't know. I think the attitude kind of gets me a little bit. And I think the problem I have with Jimmy Butler is he acts like he's top 3 when at best he's top 10. And, I just think it's like, also, I mean, what have you done? I know, the crazy run in the bubble to the finals, but that was it. You didn't finish the job. So I don't think you quite have the leg to stand on that you think. So with all that being said, I'm going to say Sabonis, 35 points in a 138-120 victory over the Heat as they lose again as 12.5-point home favorites. Bulls versus Knicks. Earlier in the year, you'd say, oh, wow, playoff implications, all of that. And while the Knicks have looked better, and I guess they did announce that Thibs will return next year, I just look at this and I think that the Bulls, DeRozan, February was a lot better than March has been, but I think the Knicks, perfect recipe, especially the Garden. Give me 50 for DeRozan. I think he's tight. I think he wants to have one of those big games that he had earlier in the year. Give me the Bulls 125, Knicks 115. But you do get 38 from Barrett, so I know Mike will be riled for that. Celtics at Raptors 730. Raptors have had a pretty good year. 42-32 this season. Siakam, another big year after missing time earlier in the year. Celtics are hot though. Can't go against the Celtics. And for whatever reason, I guess just from a road perspective, 5-point underdogs here. I don't know if we're gonna I gotta look up the injury situation because that smells like someone who's gonna be out. I don't know what we got here. So Tatum day to day. So we'll just see notes here if we can get anything specific. But obviously that changes my thought process here. If he's not gonna play after Sunday night's win, Tatum implied that he may sit out Monday's game in Toronto. So may sit out, play it by ear, meaning that he's not going to play. So did not know that. So I had to say I agree with the bookmakers here. My apologies, but give me the Raptors then. 128 to 117. Celtics have been great, but can't be down your best player and expect to beat a playoff team on the road. I mean, I think that's really as simple as it gets. So I think though Tatum, kind of playing it safe here, wants to be healthy for the stretch run. Spurs versus Rockets. I mean, Rockets are the joke of the league. Spurs, Murray, we know how great he is. So I think he could play this team 1-on-5 and still win. So give me 40 for Murray, 138 to 108 in a blowout win in Houston. Warriors, Grizz, 8 o'clock NBA TV. 10-point favorites are the Memphis Grizzlies, and they've had some good games earlier this season. But you look at the Warriors. I mean, Wiseman's out for the season. They were kind of counting, maybe he'll come back. You got Clay banged up. You got Draymond banged up. I think they might just sit everybody. I think that's why the line is what it is. So, Ja, 35, Grizzlies, 108, 102 over the Warriors. Last game of the night, Thunder, Blazers. One guy, Michael, that I just have actually become a fan of, and I really hadn't heard his name much before. Second year forward for the Blazers, Drew Eubanks, or Eubanks, however you pronounce it. But you look at his last 10, 14.9 points, 9 rebounds. Can hit a 3-ball here and there. Out of Oregon State. So got to watch out for. But that being said, I'm a big shy guy. So I'm going to say the Thunder, they are over 30 games, under 500. They're going to go 138 to 98. Blazers, I mean, they're trading Dame. He's already out for the season. Really wasted those guys. Really, really is a shame. But looking forward to see what Shy does next season as the Thunder take this one. I mean, that is our NBA wrap-up here. Really, other than that, I mean, we just got to catch up on the comments here. Let's see. So we have Denver versus Phoenix series will be crazy. Let's go. I think that'll be a good series. I don't know about a great series. I think Suns, maybe six games on that one. But, Jokic always has something to say, of course. And then Mrs. Materiello says, hi, fellas. Where's Anthony? He is currently editing, but he will be back tomorrow. So that was what we had for comments. And just seeing lastly, before we close out here, just if we have any other kind of big news stories. I believe the Yankees spring training game has started. I think it was a 1:00 game against Detroit. Just taking a quick here at NBC Sports Edge. Anybody who hasn't checked it out has all your stories, everything you need to know. Just taking a look, it doesn't appear. The big thing, and I know Tony actually would be riled about this, Albert Pujols signing a 1-year deal with St. Louis. So obviously where he started, won a couple World Series titles. So I'm guessing this is going to be the swan song for the machine. And we've talked about how he might be 55 years old at this point, possibly lied on the old birth certificate. We've seen that a lot with players, coming over from whether it's the Dominican Republic or many of the other various countries out there. But we do have a Gleyber Torres home run as the Yankees lead 1-0 going to the bottom of the second against the Detroit Tigers. And how about Deivi Garcia? 1 inning, 1K, setting the tone. It looked great his last spring appearance. That's a guy, Tony, that we might be talking about for comeback player of the year come the end of the season. Obviously, I know we're way thinking ahead here, but something to keep an eye out for. But I really love the potential of some of these young pitchers for the Yankees, whether it's Debbie, whether it's Luis Gil, whether it's Clark Schmidt, maybe not this year, but Luis Medina, I think will be good. Tony's mom says, "Great job, Barnes. I appreciate it. Thank you." And like I said before, I just can't wait for this Yankee season, and I can't wait to see who's gonna be the next big guy to make an impact, to come up with this Yankee team that we're not expecting. I mean, we know it's gonna happen somewhere. Maybe Higgy and Verdette, struggle. Maybe Austin Wells finds himself in the major leagues this year. That would be a story. All the talk about Volpe, about Peraza, do they make appearances this year? I mean, you never know where the season is going to take you, and we are so close. I can just feel it. But other than that, what a show. Obviously we'll have Tony back here tomorrow. We'll have Main Magic Mike. But I have to say, Renee, an excellent job filling in behind the glass. We always appreciate it.
Thanks, Barnes. Killed it.
And that's what we got. It's Monday. It's a cold day out there, but we're getting through. And we're just reminding you to keep commenting, liking, and subscribing. Checking out that YouTube channel, checking out Tony dressing up in costumes, asking people trivia in Salem, getting our merch at downtimetv.com. And everybody enjoy their day. Enjoy the games. We will see you all mañana.
Hey guys, Tony here from Downtime TV checking in. I want to thank all our fans out there who's been liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You guys are the best. You guys are our bloodline. You make us love what we do. Thanks again.